Welcome to G Fun Facts Online. Today we are stripping away the myths and diving deep into one of the most significant archaeological breakthroughs of the 21st century. We are heading to the arid, sun-baked expanse of the Peruvian desert to discuss the Nazca Lines. For nearly a century, these enigmatic geoglyphs have captivated the world, spawning theories ranging from astronomical calendars to ancient astronaut landing strips. But recently, a silent revolution took place on the Pampa, one that has fundamentally rewritten the history of this site. In a span of just 6 months, a collaboration between archaeologists and artificial intelligence shattered the ceiling of what we thought was possible, identifying 303 previously unknown figurative geoglyphs. To put that in perspective, it took the entire scientific community nearly 100 years to catalog the first 430 figures. I did nearly double that in half a year. Today we are going to break down exactly how this happened, what these new lines depict, and how they are completely reshaping our understanding of the Nazca civilization. To understand the magnitude of this discovery, we first need to understand the canvas. The Nazca Desert is a high, arid plateau in southern Peru. It is one of the driest places on Earth, a geographic anomaly that acts as a natural preservative. The ground here is covered in a layer of reddish-brown, iron oxide-coated pebbles. When you remove these dark stones, you reveal the lighter, lime-rich soil underneath. The Nazca people, between 200 BC and 700 AD, used this contrast to etch thousands of geometric shapes and hundreds of figurative drawings into the earth. The most famous of these are what we call the line-type geoglyphs. These are the ones you see in documentaries: the massive hummingbird, the monkey, the spider. They span hundreds of meters and are located on flat ground, best viewed from the air. However, there is a second category that has been largely ignored, known as relief-type geoglyphs. These are older, much smaller, averaging only about 9 meters or 30 feet, and they are carved into the slopes of hills. Weathered by wind and time, their outlines have blurred, blending into the surrounding rocks. For decades, these were hidden in plain sight, invisible to high-altitude planes, and easily missed by human surveyors. This is where the human eye reached its limit, and where Masato Sakai, a professor of archaeology at Yamagata University, realized he needed help. Sakai had spent years walking the desert, knowing that the 400 square kilometers of the Pampa held more secrets. But human vision is fallible. We suffer from fatigue, and we suffer from pareidolia, which is the tendency to see patterns where none exist. Sakai needed a partner that never blinked. He found that partner in IBM Research. The collaboration was not just about feeding images into a computer. It was about teaching a machine to think like an archaeologist. The challenge was that deep learning models usually require tens of thousands of examples to learn a pattern. If you want an AI to recognize a cat, you show it 1,000,000 cats. But there were not 1,000,000 Nazca lines. There were only a few hundred known examples, and they varied wildly in preservation and lighting. The IBM team employed a technique called transfer learning. They took AI models already trained to interpret general imagery and fine-tuned them with the limited dataset of known geoglyphs. They sliced high-resolution aerial photographs into thousands of smaller tiles and taught the AI to look for specific anomalies, subtle differences in texture where stones had been moved, or the faint shadow of a groove. Once trained, the AI scanned the entire Nazca Pampa, processing terabytes of data that would have taken humans decades to review. The result was a probability map, flagging thousands of locations. Armed with this map, Professor Sakai and his team returned to Peru in late 2022 for ground truthing. This step is critical because an AI can flag a shadow as a monkey, but only a human standing in the dust can confirm if it is art or just a pile of rocks. The efficiency was staggering. In previous years, a field season might yield 5 or 10 new discoveries. With the AI guidance, they were confirming new geoglyphs daily. In 6 months, they confirmed 303 new figurative geoglyphs. But the real story is not just the number. It is what these new lines depict. The famous giant line-type geoglyphs are mostly animals and are situated on flat ground. The 303 new finds were predominantly the smaller relief type, carved into hillsides. Their subject matter was far more human, and frankly, far more unsettling. The AI hunter uncovered a gallery of the bizarre and the macabre. Among the finds were strange, abstract figures of humans, sometimes depicted holding decapitated heads, linking back to the Nazca culture's known practice of taking trophy heads. They found a terrifying depiction of a killer whale wielding a knife, a motif seen in ceramics, but rarely in geoglyphs. They also found scenes of domesticated life, like llamas and parrots. This sheer volume of new data allowed for a statistical analysis that has reshaped the narrative of why these lines exist. The research now suggests a clear dichotomy. The giant line-type geoglyphs on the flat Pampa appear to be ritual spaces. The earth inside these lines is compacted, suggesting people walked on them in single-file processions, likely chanting or dancing to appease gods of water and fertility. These were community-level monuments. In contrast, the 303 new relief-type geoglyphs tell a different story. These figures are almost exclusively located within viewing distance of ancient trails and footpaths. They were not hidden, they were meant to be seen. Professor Sakai theorizes that these smaller geoglyphs served as ancient roadside billboards. As travelers moved from the coast to the Andes, they passed these images. A killer whale might mark a path toward the sea. A llama might indicate a trading route for wool. The scenes of decapitation might have been warnings of territory. This distinction humanizes the Nazca people. They were not just mystics obsessed with the sky. They were travelers and traders using their landscape to communicate. This technology is now acting as a proof of concept for the entire field of archaeology. If I can find 300 geoglyphs in a barren desert, imagine what it can do with LiDAR data in the Amazon or satellite imagery of European burial mounds. We are entering an era where we will likely discover more about the ancient world in the next 10 years than we did in the previous 100. But there is an urgency here. Climate change is bringing unprecedented rains to the desert, and flash floods can wash away these relief geoglyphs in minutes. Urban expansion is also a threat. The AI geoglyph hunter is essentially a race against time, allowing conservationists to identify and protect these sites before they are lost forever. The discovery of these 303 geoglyphs is a victory for the human spirit, bridging the gap between the ancient hands that carved the stones and the modern minds that sought to find them. Across 2,000 years of silence, the Nazca people are finally speaking to us again, and for the first time, we have the technology to listen.